Bienvenue sur S'ouvrir à l'amour, le podcast qui va t'aider à transformer ta vie amoureuse. Je suis Sandy Kaufmann, coach de vie certifiée. Sur ce podcast, je t'aide à comprendre et à changer tes mécanismes en amour afin de rencontrer la personne qui te correspond et construire une relation de couple épanouie. Tu y trouveras des réflexions, des exercices concrets tirés de mon activité de coach et de l'approche psycho-corporelle que je pratique, ainsi que des conversations inspirantes avec des experts ou des personnes comme toi et moi qui t'expliqueront leur chemin personnel pour s'ouvrir à l'amour. Tu écoutes l'épisode 21 Self-Healing with Breathwork with Brian Kelly. Alors dans cet épisode, qui est en anglais, j'ai eu l'honneur d'avoir comme invité dans mon programme de groupe le coach mental et de Breathwork, Brian Kelly. Il a développé une méthode unique de Breathwork et a déjà enseigné cette méthode à plus de 7000 participants en ligne. Il est lui-même instructeur de Breathwork et j'avais envie de partager cette expérience que j'avais faite avec les participantes de mon programme S'ouvrir à l'amour avec toi pour que vraiment tu ressentes à quel point tout n'est pas dans ta tête et à quel point le corps influence également ton état mental et ton état émotionnel. Alors, dans cet épisode, tu vas avoir déjà la chance d'en savoir plus sur les bienfaits du breathwork, sur le corps, sur l'esprit. Pour le breathwork, il y a des contre-indications. Donc, si tu as des troubles cardiaques, si tu as des maladies psychologiques qui sont diagnostiquées, si tu es sujet à des réactions émotionnelles qui sont plutôt intenses, comme par exemple des crises d'angoisse, à ce moment-là, le breathwork est pour toi contre-indiqué. Si tu as un doute, je te recommande de vérifier au préalable avec ton médecin traitant si tu peux suivre ce type de séance. Je me réjouis de lire sur Instagram un petit peu ton retour. Si tu veux approfondir ça en te formant à cette méthode, Brian Kelly en fait fait des formations en ligne régulières et je te mets également le lien vers cette formation dans les notes de cet épisode. Bonne séance. So today I have immense honor to have Brian Kelly as a guest. He's really a master in breath work. And for all of you, you know that with my psycho body approach, I always tell you how many emotions are stored in the body and how that influence the psyche. So I am really honored to have you, Brian. Today, you are a certified breath and mental health coach, and you did train or offer to more than 7,000 students all over the world your beautiful techniques. So I'm very honored to have you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So maybe you would like to introduce yourself and explain how did you came to that breath work?
Sure. It's a really great place to start. It's an interesting story because I realized the other day, so I've done a lot of these podcasts, right? And I've told my how I found breathwork story. And I realized the other day that it actually predates when I usually tell this story about coming to find breathwork. And so this will be the first platform that I've ever shared going back based on memory of when I actually first experienced breathwork. So this is all fresh. I've actually never told this story before. So your listeners will be the first to hear it. So I remember it was probably about because I've been in Bali for 6 years now. It was in the beginning, I was launching a project and I was the site director for a big construction build project here in Bali. And it was a lot of stress and a lot of chaos and a lot of timelines and deadlines and things that I was having to meet in this role. And I remember one particular day where it was just a really stressful day. Like we had an event planned, and there was a lot of moving pieces, managing a lot of people. And I remember going to my friend and saying, man, I'm just like beyond stress. I have this massive anxiety that's just like a ball in my stomach. Do you have any techniques that you can share with me that can help me to kind of get back to my balance, get back to my center? And he said, oh yeah, I got something for you, man. I knew this, he was a friend of mine, and I knew he had a lot of tools in his toolbox for this kind of thing. And he guided me through just like a 1 minute, it was just like a deep in and out nasal breathing 1 minute session. And I felt it so deeply. I felt my mind calmed down, my thoughts slowed down. I felt a lot of tingly sensations in my body. And I can just feel the overactive mind chatter that was just causing so much chaos and complexity in my mind, just slow. And all it took was 1 minute. And I had never done any breath work before. I didn't even know about breath work. I was exposed to kind of the traditional pranayama, yogic breathing, very slow and controlled parasympathetic breathing practices, but never anything like this that had a visceral body response to it. And so I think that was the time that was in the breathwork is initially seeded into my world as something that had a lot of power, but I didn't do anything with it at that time. I think it just sat in the back seat until probably about a year and a half later. I was invited to a breathwork journey, not unlike what we're going to be doing later today in this call. And it was our whole group. There was about 8 of us there. And there was one guy that was there in particular that was really going through a very challenging time in his life. He was a coach, amazingly fit guy. He was an ex-bodybuilder type. So you can imagine he was very capable. He was a master NLP practitioner, and he was a bodybuilder, and he was a holistic medicine doctor. And he had all the certificates that showed how accomplished he was in his personal growth and development and his offerings. But this just happened to be a time in his life where he was going through a great struggle. And he was insomnia. He was one night a week taking a bunch of sleeping pills just to be able to sleep for 4 or 5 hours so he wouldn't lose his mind. And he had family challenges, people coming down with cancer in his family, relationship challenges. His nervous system was just shot, and he was in a really tough place. And so when we did this journey together, I was laying right next to him. And I remember it didn't take long. It was only about 10 or 15 minutes in that I could feel this man he was laughing, he was crying, he was shaking. It was like he was having an exorcism and just purging this massive release. I had a powerful experience as well, but it was nothing like what he was going through. And after it was done, we had a sharing circle. Everyone went around. I feel like everyone was kind of waiting to hear his response from what happened in his world. And he said, out of all the things that he's ever done in his life, all the meditation, all the psychedelics and plant medicines and journeys, and he had done everything. He said, nothing was as powerful as what I just experienced in that 1 hour. And he was like born again. And the next day we saw him. He said, last night I slept for the first time in 6 months, all the way through the night, and I didn't take a single sleeping pill. And it looked like he had gotten sun in the night because the complexity of his skin had changed. And I just remember I had this record skipping moment. You might not know this phrase, maybe you do in French, but it was like a pause, kind of like, hold on a second, what's going on here kind of moment. Because had he gone to the doctors and had he gone through the traditional routes of seeking help for his anxiety and his depression and all the different things that he was going through, he would have been on 10 different pharmaceutical drugs. He would have been in therapy, would have been doing all sorts of different things. And he was able to pivot on 1 hour of breathing and completely alter the trajectory of where his health was going. And it turned him around. And it took 1 hour. And it was like a light bulb flashing moment for me. It's like, if this is as profound for this guy, what can this do to help me transform and change and shift the things that aren't working for me in my own life? But also, why doesn't everybody know about this? Why aren't we teaching breathwork in schools? Why aren't we teaching it as a viable healing modality? Why is this not mainstream? And since then, breathwork has actually become mainstream. I mean, it's the number one trending health and wellness modality since 2019 in a $4.25 trillion industry. And there's a reason for that, because it's the fast track and it works. So I feel like breathwork is for people like me who want immediate, instant results and that are a little bit lazy to commit 2 or 3 years to a modality before you can see any kind of reward. And I love meditation. I meditate frequently, not as much lately because I'm so into my breathwork practice, but meditation is kind of the long road. That's my and many people's relationship with meditation. Amazing. I don't want to downplay the power of it, but breathwork opens that door and creates an opportunity for things to shift and transform almost instantaneously. And that's the power of breathwork. And ultimately, once I realized that this was as powerful of a tool as it is, it became impossible for me to not just dedicate my entire life to it. And here we are years later, and that's still my mission, my vision, my purpose to this day.
Yeah, I like very much your story, because my interpretation of it is, I don't know if you know the polyvagal theory. In that,
Polyvagal theory, yeah.
For me, breathwork help you to get out this fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
And they say the vagus nerves, you have 4 paths going from your body to your mind. So if you are still here in that state, you can do as much as meditation as you want. It will not cool down the fact that you are still in fight or flight. So for me, breathwork is much deeper approach. In my practice, I combine breathwork with visceral massages. So I witness daily how much the breath can help to change how the organs are inside the belly. It's really an incredible technique. And maybe for the people who don't know still, although it's mainstream, how would you define breathwork, and how would you say the benefit are? Are they only physical, or are they also psychological?
Sure. Great question. So it really boils down to, there's kind of 2 lanes. There's one lane that's like breath awareness that you learn very commonly in meditation, anapana, follow your breath, your natural breath, don't manipulate it. And this is not breath work. This is just becoming aware of your breath, and has different benefits, and all of which are great. Breath work is the conscious manipulation of the rate and the ratio at which you breathe. That's not normal. So in everyday breathing, we need to breathe through our nose. It's a fundamental, like so many benefits from just making sure that we're breathing through our nose all the time. And breath work, when you do conscious breath work, it's the only time where you really should be breaking that rule. And so the techniques that I teach are all breathing through the mouth, which allows us to bring in more oxygen quickly. It activates the energy centers in the body more quickly, and it allows for a bodily response, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, over a very short period of time. And the benefits are vast. It helps with stress. It helps with anxiety. It helps with nervous system regulation. So as you mentioned, most people are dominantly in their fight or flight, and that we're in our fight or flight because of how we're breathing. That's the funny thing. Most people think, a common understanding is that I'm stressed and I'm anxious. So because I'm stressed and I'm anxious, I'm manipulating my breathing, and I'm breathing fast and shallow into my upper chest as a result of being stressed and anxious. And it's actually the other way around. We breathe fast and shallow into our chest, which causes our stress and anxiety. So one of the things that I teach in my retreats and on the calls and doing all the journeys and the challenges, I make sure that people understand, look, if you want a really quick hack for hacking your nervous system, because most people think that they don't realize how much control we have of being able to go back and forth between parasympathetic and sympathetic. And for anybody that's not familiar with those terms, sympathetic being the fight or flight side, right? And then the parasympathetic being the rest or digest side. This is directly connected to our stress and our emotional states. And so state change and state manipulation is one of the most powerful effects of breath work. It's like we go through life thinking that we're at effect to our emotional states. I'm sad, I'm tired, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm stressed, I'm anxious. And most people will just accept the fact or resist most of the time that they feel the way that they feel, and they'll wait for the feeling to naturally run its course and to change. And breathwork gives us it's like the remote control to our nervous system. It gives us the ability to upregulate if we want more energy and more focus and more concentration, because ultimately fight or flight is necessary. We need fight or flight. Sometimes we need to be on. Right now, I'm probably in a fight or flight state because I'm presenting. I need to be on. I need to be activated. I need to command attention. I need to inspire. I need to, make sure people are getting the information right. So if you measured my heart rate right now, it'd probably be quite a few beats per minute faster than it normally is. I need that. But the problem is most people are in that state all the majority of the time. And when we're in fight or flight, as you know with your work, the majority of the time, the downstream negative side effects of stress and all these things that are happening inside of the body as a result of being in this fight or flight all the time can lead to all sorts of negative health effects down the road. So we need a way to bring ourselves back into the parasympathetic, the rest or digest. And that gives us the ability to control our emotional response to what's going on in the world. So we have these external stimulants. We get angry. Okay, now I'm going to slow my breath down. I'm going to extend my exhale. I'm going to breathe deeper. I'm going to extend my exhale longer. I'm going to activate my parasympathetic side of my nervous system. And now I can control slowly coming down to a nice soft landing of relaxation and calm and cool and collectedness. And I didn't have to wait an hour or 2 hours to go by. I could literally do it in 60 seconds. And so the health effects are not just physical. This affects us mentally. It affects us psychologically, it affects us spiritually. How we breathe affects how we live. It's like how we're breathing is a mirror for how we're living. If we have a stressed breath, we're stressed in life. If we have a relaxed breath, we're relaxed in life. So everybody that's listening to this call just needs to decide, how do I want my GPS, my operating system to be programmed? Would I see more value in living a life where I can control my energetic state and manipulate it as I see fit? What kind of power and empowerment does that give me? Or do I want to be a victim of my external circumstances? I'm knocked off my center. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm in my head. My mindset is then out of whack, and I'm trying to figure out how to get myself back into balance. Well, if you want the keys to that car, all you got to do is figure out how to use your breath to stimulate and manipulate it. So it's a superpower as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And what I like is, I think the nature is so well done, because breath is something we have always on us. We don't need any material. We can always just do it when we need it. Exactly. I'm always telling my clients, look, I'm going to show you how to do this. And then after, hopefully you don't need me anymore. You realize that you have the tools. I'm going to teach you the techniques. The reality is most people, they still need a little bit of nudging. So they keep coming back, or else I put myself out of business. But it's true. It's like 20 to 25,000 times the average person breathes in a single day. How much are we paying attention to how we're breathing, or how our breathing is affecting how we're showing up in the world? And we can literally just decide right now, let's do a little bit of breath work, slow down our breathings, pick up our breathing, whatever we want to do. And it's just right there with us from the moment we're born. We take that first breath until the moment we die. We take that last breath and all the millions of breaths in between. And so that's the power, and it's unparalleled. Yeah. So as a routine, what do you recommend? Do you recommend to practice breathwork every day and to do more deeper work, I don't know, once a month, once a week? It's a really good question. I get that a lot. So it really depends on what you have going on in life. Like I tell people that are going through a really challenging time in life, whether it be a lot of stress or a lot of anxiety, or they're up against a mean bout with depression, or have some life event that's really challenging for them, they can do a breathwork journey like we're going to do today, once a day. You just have to balance the breathwork journey with a lot of really slow and controlled breathing to balance out
doing fast breathing for that 1 hour period. So you really want to, the rest of the day, you really want to slow your breath down. For the average person that's just kind of going through life and maybe isn't necessarily going through a very challenging time or whatever the case is, once a week doing a journey like we're going to do today. And then the rest of there's a couple different approaches to making breathwork a daily practice. My favorite is, just do 15 minutes a day, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, and 5 minutes at night before you go to bed. Because you can do a morning practice to stimulate and activate. You can do a midday practice to either upregulate or downregulate, depending on what you're going for. And then you can do a downregulation sleeping technique or relaxation technique at night before you go to bed. My other favorite suggestion is let your mood swings and your emotional triggers guide you on when to do breath work. And so when you feel like you're going through a tough mental time and you're stressed or you're anxious or overwhelmed or whatever the case might be, every time you have an emotional trigger is the time to use breath work to bring you back to your center. And so either of those are super viable. After I do these journeys, what I usually do is I steer people to my and I can give you and your students access to this for special holiday promo price. But it's basically 30 days of breathing, where it's like me guiding shorter sessions, 5 to 20 minutes. And that's like maintenance breathing. Sometimes people, they don't have the willpower to just kind of come and do their own practice on their own. So usually what I tell people is do this journey, then jump into my course. And then that's going to give you 30 days of guided practice with me. And every day is builds on the day before it. And there's 4 techniques in there. And that gives something that you just push play and throw on some headphones and do it. And so really it all starts with the will. People need to have a will. They need to have a strong will and conviction that they want to shift and unalter their life in a positive flow, in a positive direction. And once that's there, then it's really easy to lean in and to find the different practices. I mean, the reality is there's a lot of different guided breathwork stuff on YouTube and on Spotify these days. It's pretty much everywhere. It's just a matter of finding the right modalities and techniques that works for the individual.
Is there a counter-indication?
There is, yeah. So with the slower parasympathetic, slower breathing practices, no contraindications. Anybody can do those all the time, whether that's to balance or to bring the nervous system down into that rest and digest state. For the journey that we're going to do today, if anybody has any cardiovascular problems or any major heart conditions, you want to talk to a physician before you do this practice. If you have extreme anxiety, anxiety it actually worked for, but if you have extreme anxiety and you have extreme mental health challenges, diagnosed mental health challenges, this might actually trigger your anxiety. So you just need to be very bodily aware and bodily conscious. So when you're going through, if it feels like too much, you can just slow yourself down and kind of go at your own pace. If you have extreme asthma, you can still do this kind of breath work, but you just want to go to a much slower rhythm and just go really slow, really deep, but really slow. If you have any kind of history of epilepsy or seizures or anything like that, you want to consult a physician first. Those are the main ones. There's a few others too that are not so common, but it's mostly asthma and cardiovascular. And if you're in relatively good health, then I have not, in all the many thousands of students that I've guided through this practice, I've never had any adverse effects or adverse events come up that weren't manageable. But really the biggest thing for people to understand is that breath work activates our emotional body. And so the most important thing to be aware of is that, this practice is designed to bring up the unexpressed and repressed emotional traumas and baggage that we're carrying around in our bodies, like you mentioned before. Breathwork activates that, so that the emotional release could come in the form of tears, laughing, shaking, any combination thereof. And ultimately, all of that is just trapped emotions that are being released from the body. And so my suggestion is always to just lean into that, because ultimately, as we somatically process the stuff that's trapped in our body, we're liberated from it. And it doesn't mean it's going to go away and it's gone forever, but a big chunk of it can get taken out relatively quickly. I mean, I had a guy message me the other day. He had a form of treatment-resistant anxiety and depression. That means everything that he had ever tried didn't work, including prescription pills. And in 1 hour, he said it was the most effective thing that he had ever done for his anxiety and his depression. And so it's going to be different things for different people, different experience every time, but it's unique and powerful every time, no matter what.
Yeah, and for the person who wants to deep dive into your world and into the breathwork, you are doing a regular certification online. Would you like to speak about it?
Sure. Yeah, actually January 11th. So 8 days from today, we're starting a 10-week online breath coach certification program using my specific modality, my unique modality that we call transformational breath work, which means different things to different people, but you're going to experience it in a few minutes. So you have a pretty good idea of what it is. And essentially that's for anybody that's looking to get into the coaching business that wants to add an edge of being able to offer breath work as an additional tool in their toolbox, or existing coaches that want to take their coaching practice to the next level. Because ultimately breath work, it's one of the key fundamentals of breath work is it gives us direct access to the subconscious. And that's very challenging to get to unless you're doing plant medicines or doing some form of hypnosis. And so with a tool that allows us access to this is all where all the limiting beliefs and negative thought patterns and loops and different cycles of self-sabotage and the many things that so many people struggle with are hiding and lurking in the shadows of our subconscious mind. Breathwork gives us direct access to that. So if we're talking about faster, more sustainable results for our clients and for ourselves, I haven't experienced any other modality that's more powerful and more potent. So if anybody's interested in jumping in and becoming certified as a breath coach, you can give them my contact information. I think you already have the website. They can message me and we can hop on a call and see if it's a good fit.
Yes, I will put all the links and your email as well, so they can get in touch with you if they have any question or if they want to go further.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good.
So thanks a lot for this great session. As you have seen, I generate a lot. Maybe I can share a bit the sensation I have, because I would like to share it also on the podcast so people can recognize the sensation. First of all, I love the way you create the safe space with your speaking and support. I did some breathwork before, but it was not so nicely supported. And I think this makes a huge difference for the other to let go. And for me, at the beginning, I really felt my body becoming very cold, and my hands were like tipping a lot. I had also some shake. I feel a lot in my heart, like opening. And at the end, after the second screaming session, I felt like my whole body was shaking. So it was quite intense, and I was happy because I felt my body needed a bit of breath work. It is really, for me, thank you for coming, because I would like the world really to know that it's not everything in our head, and our body has much more of a healing power that we think. And I think with the session you have done today, you demonstrated so nicely. Thanks a lot for this.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity to share this work. It's my mission. It's my purpose. It's why I wake up and what gets me out of bed in the morning. So any opportunity that I have to help someone navigate the challenges of life with a little bit more grace, and to share this gift, I welcome it. So I appreciate the platform and the space and going all in. I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much, Sandy, and for everyone for being here.
And I think everybody who has lungs should do the certification, because it's the greatest gift you can do to yourself, I think.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you so much. Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah. So I will reach out if there is any question. I will put your contacts. I will also share it on my podcast because I think it's such a great gift. So I will put also all the reference on it. Thanks again for your time. And I wish you a lot of success in your school because you're really doing a great, great job.
Pleasure. Happy New Year to you. And look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks, Andy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Si tu apprécies ce podcast, la meilleure façon de m'encourager est de me laisser une revue 5 étoiles sur Apple Podcast ou de transmettre cet épisode à une personne de ton entourage qui en a besoin. Et enfin, si tu es prête à t'ouvrir à l'amour et à transformer ta vie amoureuse, je t'invite à rejoindre mon programme de coaching S'ouvrir à l'amour. Tous les détails se trouvent sur mon site sandykaufman.ch. Et n'oublie pas, il n'y a que tes peurs qui te séparent de l'amour.